iDubbbz posted a YouTube video that's become extremely divisive. I haven't seen people this divided on a singular topic since the red and blue dress debate. The video he posted was basically an apology for the content he made in the past, apologizing for it being hurtful or damaging, and a whole myriad of other things that he wanted to come forward with, and talking about how he's changed as a person and thus his content will be changing. He goes over like insecurities of his past. And overall, he just invites the audience into the back of the kitchen to see how the sausage is made and meet the chef. And for a lot of people, they didn't want to meet the chef. He's being very open and honest about his feelings on his older self and now his current mentality, how he feels better and healthier and doesn't like what he did in the past and didn't like who he used to be. So it's a whole apology video for all of that. He releases more feelings in this video than Pandora's box, and I kind of want to go over this whole situation because I have a lot of thoughts on the topic, not only as it pertains to iDubbbz in particular, but just in the general creator space. There's a few things that I want to talk about here.
For a while, I felt like if I changed my content over time, that people would see that as a reflection of who I am and what I value, but I'm starting to realize that that is a very weak and passive way to, run my channel and live my life.
I'm sorry to immediately come in here with the Phoenix Wright objection, but I completely disagree with the sentiment that it's weak or passive to change your content and expect people to see that as a reflection of yourself. That's pretty much the optimal way of handling any kind of situation in which you're not comfortable with either your audience or the content you've been making. By changing the content over time, you're changing the audience over time.
I disagree with Charlie. I mean, Charlie's talking about best practices. That's why he's the fucking commentary guy with 13 million subs who, each of his videos get like 700 gorillion views, even though this is in the frame. It's in the frame. Why is that in the frame? Okay. Anyway, I disagree. In an ideal world, that's fine. It might work for Charlie. I think I would have probably had a similar take to Charlie maybe a year ago. When I first started recognizing that like Ian's attitude was very different. When I first met him, actually, because I always thought like, after watching some of his content cops, like I always thought like, first of all, I knew Anissa and I knew that she was awesome. I knew that she had great politics overall. I did not know that she was also like Ian. But that was the reason why I thought like Ian can't be too much of a fucking edgelord. He can't be what I have seen in his videos. But I was a little apprehensive when I first met him. I thought like, this is the guy that fucking says the N-word a lot. You know what I mean? He's the N-word guy. But then I noticed like he did feel very uncomfortable about it. He did feel very uncomfortable about like the things that he had said. iDubbbz literally said that people came up to him expecting him to be transphobic. Even after changing his content, people still thought he was bigoted. Clearly, that didn't pan out. He has evidence to prove he just can't change his content and expects his audience to change with him. I don't know why Charlie's ignoring this part. I think Charlie doesn't care as much. I mean, he's a lip, but like smack dab in the center on a lot of issues, but definitely hypercritical of cops every now and then. I've heard him fucking aggressively advocate for workers' rights. He's just very Florida. Overall, he's just a guy. I don't know. I don't hate Charlie, but he's completely Reddit adjacent. Yeah, I mean, he is. The only criticism I have of Charlie ever, even though I think he's a very kind person, I think he's a very nice person. I've met all of the people around him. Loved all those guys at the MoistCr1TiKaL factory. They're great. Having said all of that, the only thing I would say about Charlie is that like I think he capitulates a little bit too much to some people who are like very clearly edgelords, people who do definitely cut racist content, or at least people who are very familiar and very friendly with people who cut racist content. Maybe they're not like overtly white supremacists themselves in a lot of instances, because there's a lot of like weird T channels and commentary YouTube spaces that are very center right, But he is a pretty good normie barometer. Cough, Muda cough. I mean, I'm friends with Muda. Like, I talk to Muda a lot of times. I don't think that's not what I'm talking about. But Muda, like Charlie, also has some friends like that. I don't care what you guys' opinions are on the commentary space in general. I'm just going to finish what I'm trying to say. I think he's a little too, like, welcoming for my taste. But it's fine. I still watch his shit. I don't care. I can get over it. If you can't, that's fine. Yeah, I'm talking about the D tier Keemstars and drama YouTubers, yeah, who are like just awful for the most part.
as well, obviously, right? The people that subscribe for your previous catalog of content might not stick around for the stuff you start creating when it goes in a different direction, and that's a totally fine thing. I don't think there's anything weak about just making different content and growing individually without having to come forward and share that growth with your audience. At the end of the day, your subscribers aren't your friends. You don't know them and they don't know you. That's the brass tacks of it. Sorry to blast the cold water in your face first thing in the morning. You don't owe them an explanation for why you're changing your content. You're welcome to tell them. I think that's totally within your right to do. But I really disagree that it's weak if you don't explain why you're changing your content. You can just make...
Motherfucker heard what Ian was saying and was like, is this about me? Like, what? Everyone has a different way of doing shit, man. It's fine. Like, I think Ian's way of openly admitting that he has changed his mentality, he's changed his content, and addressing his past is perfectly valid and actually very good. I think that was more so for like a lot of black and brown marginalized people that felt differently about the impact that he had. He did that for those people. He was like, I'm acknowledging it. My content is different, and I apologize. Like openly saying that was I think something that people had to hear. There's a difference Charlie's missing. This is not Donkey moving on from League. He's moving on from the N-word. Yeah. iDubbbz wasn't saying he was weak for not explaining the situation to his old fans. He was saying it was a weak move to move on without apologizing to minority groups. I think so too. I think that's what he was saying. People still didn't fully get that he had changed his mind. He felt bad about all the pain and hurt he had caused them. He recognized that. He didn't want to be seen as that person. He also wanted to tell people in his audience that are still like that like that's not a good thing to do. Not good to do.
Different stuff and go in that direction where you're happier without ever really needing to come forward and like really lecture on why.
I think I should have the balls to make an apology video and take accountability for the mistakes I've made. So that's what this video is. I am responsible for creating a lot of hurtful and damaging content on this channel. And I've also created a culture of apathy and I don't know, a lot of like cruelty as well. Like, you know, some of the videos I've made have been very not edgy. I don't think they some of these videos were edgy. I think they were just outright cruel.
It sucks to hear that this is how he thinks about his old content and his old self. It's always a very difficult realization when you look back on, the you of a few years ago disappointed. Like, I used to be 5'6", and I still am, but it sucks to realize that I was then too, and have been for a long time. Point is, he wasn't happy with the content he made or the person he was, and now he's trying to apologize for the videos he made. And I, once again, have to completely disagree with the way he looks at it. I feel like his perspective on it is very warped by the way the internet has evolved over the years. The way he talks about this content makes it sound like he used to fucking murder puppies for these videos, which it was never that extreme. I very much would consider...
Bro, come on, Charlie. He was fucking screaming the N-word at people, dude. What the fuck? Okay, I take it back. Charlie's not the normie barometer on this, okay? He's the barometer for what, like, the internet center is, but no shot, dude. You fucking show iDubbbz to, like, a normal guy, like a stevedore, you know what I mean? Like a black stevedore sees a fucking iDubbbz video because his son's watching it. He's not gonna go, oh, man, that's, like, not as bad as killing a puppy. He's going to be like, what the fuck is that? What are you watching? You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. No, you show what iDubbbz was doing to like a fucking normal human being out there, out and about. They're going to have some opinions, okay? It's not like he was doing race crimes individually, but like it is straight up probably like the most openly recognized unacceptable action. You know what I mean? No, dude, normies don't care about the N-word, at least rural normies. No. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Also, black people do. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, like saying that was not okay back then either, for the record. Charlie's literally doing the shit that every 32 but mentally 14-year-old in the hate comments in this video are doing. Lamau, come on, man. It wasn't that bad. It was the glory days of online, bro. Come on. Exactly. I don't think Charlie knows the cultural impact iDubbbz had. Either he's coping hard or he's actually somehow oblivious to this. No, I don't think he's oblivious to it. I think he just doesn't think that what iDubbbz was doing was like that bad. I think he thinks that the iDubbbz apology was like overboard. The irony, of course, is that I don't think Charlie would do that. Didn't you agree with that earlier? I agreed with certain components of that, but not this. I would never in a fucking million years say that like an apology wasn't warranted for making videos and defending saying the N-word and saying the N-word all the time in public. That's crazy. My point was I would have differentiated between the harmful actions and the harmful toxicity that was caused versus like, some of the shit that actually stood the test of time. I quite literally said, damn, iDubbbz is apologizing like he was fucking Ben Shapiro. Like he wasn't that bad. But I would never in a million years say that like he shouldn't have apologized for that kind of stuff. No, it's very good that he apologized for that, and it was totally warranted.
Consider it edgy. It was 2016 edginess in all of its glory. That was entirely the brand. And for its time, it lived peacefully. You know, all four nations, water, earth, fire, air, lived together in harmony with all of this edginess going on. Now, obviously, times have changed, and he has changed. He's gotten older. He's in his 30s now. In your 30s, it's not exactly entertaining to...
Lamar, I didn't even pre-watch this? Yeah, that's crazy. Bro, that's wild. Maybe this is where I differ because, like, in 2016, I was an online figure on the left, and I was getting my ass beat in the QRTs from day one, even as, like, a young, not all that famous content creator. I still had my fair bit of stalkers from the groiped up shouty community on 4chan, many of which were probably iDubbbz fans as well. That shit was not good. And it was cope. It was just bad. It's just not funny. And Ian even recognizes that in his video, which I really liked. You were doing that because you weren't fucking funny and you desperately wanted to be funny and you wanted to get a reaction out of people and it wasn't fucking funny, but like all of the unfunny fucks loved it because they also wanted to be funny and they thought, haha, this is how I get reactions out of people. Lol, we're just owning you. They still do that. They're doing it in the QRTs right now. Empathy and growth is when you celebrate the 9/11 attacks and try to blame it on English being your second language. Yeah, dude, that's what happened. I celebrated the 9/11 attacks. I'm willing to bet if I fucking looked at this dude's account, there is some horrifically racist nonsense on there. Why did they virtue signal so much? Like, what do you think? I was on the fucking New Jersey rooftops, you dumb bitch? Like you always say, they are ironically acting so liberal. Like all because a dude apologized for saying the N-word, man. I agree with what you're saying. What bothers people here is that Ian was making it sound like all this content was about being racist and spitting racist rhetoric, and that was never the case. Bro, that is the case. You got banned for saying slurs like last year, Lamau, shut up. This guy's talking about cracker, by the way. Like this is what I'm saying. These people are so mentally stunted. No one is ever going to be on your side, brother. Only the other mentally stunted, extremely online weirdos will give you that reaction that you are looking for and warp your sense of what is normal. Get a job. Go ahead. Explain to people that you're mad that someone apologized for saying the N-word all the fucking time, every other slur all the fucking time, and defended the right to say it, and how that's wrong. And also on top of that, you know what's the real N-word? Saying cracker. Like, go ahead. Please explain that. Go ahead and explain that to a normal person. Go talk to your fucking mom and dad about it. If you personally think no one is capable of changing and then like apologizing for like fucking creating a toxic culture and saying the N-word is actually a bad thing, and that you're constantly going to hold people to like what they have done, even though you would want people to be way more open-minded to you if you ever changed your mentality, you are no different than the fucking SJWs. All of these like weird, edgelord accounts online who are like, oh, fuck these cringe, soy, gay SJWs and the way that they fucking behave. They're doing the same shit. You can't change your mentality. You think it's impossible, so you're terrified that like other people are able to do that. You're doing the same shit that like SJWs are doing. Let's continue.
You just be spamming slurs for shock humor. I don't find that entertaining, and he doesn't either. So it's totally fine to want to distance yourself from making content like that. But I don't think it was a mistake that he made those videos. Like, they're not hurtful, nor do I really think they're damaging. Now, you could make an argument that they were hurtful to the people they were about, like...
No, they were absolutely hurtful and they were absolutely damaging. I'm going to be super charitable here. I think Charlie is just looking at Content Cop in and of itself and saying like Content Cop wasn't hurtful and damaging, maybe to the people. That's not what Ian was talking about. Ian is talking about the things that he said in those things.
The Content Cop on Tana or Leafy.
Also, why doesn't he just talk to Ian? You literally did the fucking creator clash with him. Just DM him before making a video like this.
Or any of that, you could say like, he hurt their feelings or sent harassment their way, which may have been a mental burden on them, and you could feel bad about that, I suppose. But at the end of the day, I don't think the goal of his content was ever to be hurtful or damaging. He was just trying to entertain and using edginess as shock humor, which for its time was acceptable online. Now, whether or not you think that's okay that it was ever acceptable, that's a different argument for a different day. But the point is, the point of his content wasn't to be hateful or hurtful. He really was just trying to entertain. At least that's how I and the majority of people viewed it. So I just don't think that the apology is really warranted. You can explain, like, I just don't like making that content anymore, so I won't. And be like, hey, I even regret making that content.
Making this video while iDubbbz getting a fuck ton of hate is fucking weird. I know, especially because he knows him. Like, come on, Charlie. I hope he turns this around and, like, talks about all the people shitting on him for changing at some point. It would be very nice. Like, why are you debate lording someone's fucking apology for saying the N-word all the time? Oh my God, dude. Especially weird because you're not like that either, motherfucker. Why? Why are you saying this? Is there something wrong with my brain? Because when I see Ian apologizing, I'm thinking about what he apologized for. Maybe in my mind, I'm thinking, well, there was a lot of valid content cops out there and it was good overall and it stood the test of time, with the exceptions of like all the fucking slurs and shit. But he is very clearly apologizing for the culture that those slurs created, the culture of hate and bigotry that it justified, normalized. But I'm sorry, like, your intention being, I just wanted to entertain, that's why I kept screaming the fucking N-word, is ridiculous. Like, that's not a good defense. And Ian doesn't think that that's a good defense. He doesn't even agree with that.
Because it's kind of cringe now. That's all fine. But to think that it is this huge, massive problem, like you made an unforgivable mistake, is a little weird to me.
So I don't want people to, get it confused about, where I stand. I have made some cruel, hurtful content, and I need to.
You want to know what it is? I get where Charlie's coming from to a certain degree, not about the N-word shit, obviously. Like, oh, he just wants to make people laugh. This video does have like a super negative slant to it, and to a degree where it's like his actions were really fucking gross, like old Ian, right? And he had to take accountability for that. So it was always going to come across as kind of sad because it was like slurs. It was slurs galore. But a lot of people looked at that and went, dude, what the fuck? Like, but there's a lot of content that you made that was great. And even I had that takeaway where I felt like he didn't differentiate enough. But I realize he probably personally made that decision not to add any defense of his content at all in here, because he wanted to make sure that people understood, like, he's not defending anything. Like, he's here to be truly just apologetic. Do you think this may be projection to some extent? Like, is it defense of any past behaviors Charlie and others might have done that might have fallen under the edgy umbrella? No, I don't think Charlie's ever been on the receiving end of that harassment. Ian has been on the receiving end of his own fucking community and the harassment that they engage in. He knows how fucking shitty it is when you have the most psychotic losers that spend every fucking waking moment online be up your fucking asshole. It's embarrassing. You're protecting Charlie. Charlie is 1000% racist. I'm not protecting Charlie at all. I'm criticizing Charlie. If you can't comprehend what I'm saying, the words that are coming out of my fucking mouth, just listen, okay? Yeah, I think Charlie, given the nature of his commentary, hasn't really been on the receiving end of this kind of like biblical amounts of harassment, like cyber harassment, cyber stalking. And I think that's the major reason why he doesn't fully understand it. That's why he literally was like feeding the fucking trolls over and over again. And I was like, Charlie, what the fuck are you doing? Like, stop responding to people who are not trying to criticize you in good faith. That's when I realized, oh, fuck, he doesn't get it. This dude has been online for as long as he has, and it genuinely feels like he hasn't, like, received a lot of ill-intentioned weirdos that watch him specifically to hate watch. I think a part of why Ian knows how bad this shit got with his own audience is because his own audience turned on him. He told you that on the pod. He doesn't see anyone as 100% disingenuous. Yeah, because he hasn't experienced it as much. Because a lot of people like him.
To acknowledge that, and I'm really sorry that it's taken me this long to acknowledge it. The content I'm talking about specifically are content cop videos and videos where I was just generally criticizing people for very lackluster reasons, and obviously didn't have any accountability online whatsoever on my end.
You shouldn't have to apologize for criticizing someone or something.
This part is the only part that I also kind of saw. Man, I don't really get it. Like, I don't really know why he's like shitting on his own content cops. Like, a lot of the content cops were like valid.
Your opinion on a subject is a totally natural thing to do. I get criticized, I criticize others, people criticize movies, games, music, all of that. And to try and vilify the idea of criticism being evil, I think is a little dangerous because then you just create these echo chambers and no one ever really grows from that. I think it's totally fine if you regret the way you criticize things, the way you approach the subjects, if you regret how you handled it, that's okay. However, I wouldn't necessarily say that you were picking apart people for lackluster things. You seem to really look back negatively on all of the content cops, but whether you like it or not, you did make good points and good arguments against people who did deserve criticism.
Yeah, no, that's a straw man. I don't even think Ian said that, but he said things in a way that you could absolutely see it like that. Does Charlie not know Ian said slurs, lol? No, he does. I think he just thinks that, oh, he was just doing it to be, like, funny. And he wasn't doing it because he was, like, ideologically right-wing or a Nazi or whatever, which I don't think he was either, for the record. But I do think he was racist. You can't just be like, yeah, I say the N-word all the time, and I make an advocacy for saying the N-word all the time and not be racist. But do I think Ian now is racist? Absolutely not. I don't.
I feel like the main pain point of those videos he used to make is the slurs in them. Like, his catchphrase was 2 slurs strung together, right? Like, that's not exactly something to be super proud of. I get that. But to go back and say, like, all of it's shit, all of it's, you know, bad and cruel, I think is going way overboard, because it's not. I don't think any of it was cruel. I don't think the criticism was unwarranted, but it's fine to just regret the way you handled it to a certain extent without saying all the content was.
Bro, I like that the first half of Charlie's criticism is either directly what Ian said or just things that he didn't say that you made a false inference over. I don't think iDubbbz was like, every single thing I've done is so wrong. It's so bad. He didn't even do the classic, like, over-the-top white guy self-flagellation shit that I fucking despise. You know, the whole, like, I found a black person whose shoes I will clean on camera, please. Like, I put shackles on myself. You can whip me, black people. Like, when white people do that shit, it's annoying. It's transparently fucking selfish. It's so self-centered. You're still otherizing black people. Just be fucking normal and be anti-racist. Ian didn't do that. That would have been fucking performative. He didn't even do that shit. I don't think Ian regrets his entire career. He should have probably differentiated a little bit more and been like, I'm not saying like everything I've done is wrong and everything I've done is bad. But I think the reason why he didn't even factor that in is because he first and foremost wanted to like genuinely present an apology. And when you're presenting an apology and you turn around and say, I'm not saying all my content is fucking bad, all of a sudden that comes across like you're defending some of the content. And people will make up that shit on their own sides. Just like Charlie is currently filling the holes with his personal biases. If he had ever turned around and said, in my opinion, oh, well, you know, a lot of the content I made was actually pretty good and it stood the test of time, which I think it did, okay? If he had differentiated that somehow, then the people who he most wants to apologize to would probably see that and go, in my mind, I think maybe you're talking about saying the N-word that you're proud of.
Damaging or cruel or bad.
I was morally grandstanding and acting as if I am any better than any of these people that I was making content cop videos on, and I'm not. I'm a human. I'm a real human who makes mistakes, and, you know, I make a different set of mistakes than the people I was making videos on, but it doesn't matter. I don't think anyone deserves that level of cruelty or hate. It's also indoctrinated a lot of people into thinking that this is an okay way to behave, and it's not.
I feel like there's a chance he may have been hit by a Men in Black neuralizer and had his memories rewritten of what that content actually was. Because
everyone that looks at this who is like an old fan of Ian is not thinking of the N-word stuff. They're thinking of like him shitting on Leafy is here. They're thinking of him shitting on Keemstar. They're thinking of him shitting on all the villains like Rice Gum. That's what they're thinking. And they're like, what the fuck? What are you saying right now? Why are you apologizing for like criticizing Jake Paul and Logan Paul? That's what they're thinking. So they're just filling the fucking holes and not understanding the intention that he had. Partially because I don't think they see, how warranted an apology was in this circumstance, because they personally were never like fully impacted by his commentary. Yes, ultimately because they're white. Okay, I'm white too, but at least I understand it because I was also, victim to a lot of the harassment campaigns as a content creator or a liberal presenting content creator at the Young Turks at the time when the battle lines had been drawn online. Yeah, he had content that was specifically about saying and justifying slurs. Not hard to see. It's wrong law. Exactly. I don't think that Charlie himself agrees with that shit, which is why it's crazy.
I never got the impression from those videos that he was morally grandstanding or that he was trying to pitch himself as superior to them morally. He never really tried to make himself seem like he was better than them. In fact, he would multiple times point out, like, his problems as well, and even give them advice on how they could have attacked him better in response, giving them ammo if they wanted to use against him. It all seemed very self-aware, not from like a moral grandstanding perspective, but just you were lending criticism in a goofy way to entertain your audience as well as provide legitimate points for why these people are doing bad things or have done bad things. For example, making a content comp on Leafy and bullying him the same way he'd bully the people in his videos, right? Like, that's not exactly the most cruel thing in the world. It's just making a point and making that point entertaining to your audience.
I am very insecure about my ability to create interesting content or like entertain. It's gotten better over the years, but it's something that I have struggled with constantly. And it's one of the reasons why I, kept making this hurtful content. You do interpret that as an excuse, but I hope that that is relatable to other creators who maybe struggle with the same thing.
Now, this subject right here is something that extends beyond the iDubbbz situation. It's the insecurity, especially with a creator who's found a lot of success with one branch of content, that fearfulness to try other things because you don't know how to be perceived and you're a little worried about your ability to even deliver something that's not the norm that your audience is used to. That's a very honest look into that mentality, and you see it all the time on the platform with people that have found success in one niche and they never leave it. And that's because there's always that fear that if you do, you'll lose your audience or you'll just not be good at it. So most people live in the exact same style of content.
How do you explain to a grown man that saying racist slurs is racist and warrants an apology? Tap to have sex with me is dropping a lot of truth bombs in the chat. Thank you, Tap to have sex with me. I never in my life did I think iDubbbz would get in drama in 2023. Dude feels guilty. It's obvious he really regrets his behavior from the past, and I understand his desire to distance himself. Yeah, I think a lot of people are understanding. People are recognizing that this was a good thing. I think it's very important for him to reflect on this openly, considering how there are so many people that do that genuinely miss his old content and enjoy it for less than ideal reasons. It's very weird to critique him for the act of saying, yeah, this was bad. He didn't make an apology to satisfy some angry mob. No one was trying to cancel him. He did it because he knew it would get rid of the type of audience he doesn't want anymore around. Yeah, I like that. People are actually, recognizing what iDubbbz did was good. Man, it fucking makes me happy. It actually does make me happy. It's not even fucking drama. It's a dude owning up to like bad shit that he did, who don't even agree with the fucking slurs, probably have a lot of emotional response to, they remember how much they enjoyed watching Ian in 2016, and those feelings remain with them. So when they hear Ian fucking say, like, that stuff was bad, and not exactly specify in detail exactly what part of it was bad, because he kind of didn't. He just wanted to do an apology, which was warranted. They think, wait a minute, am I bad for enjoying Ian? Am I just as racist? What's going on? And to be real, some of the people are just as racist, losing their fucking minds, re-uploading all of his old videos that he took down, putting it in his replies everywhere, or even in the replies of people that are defending him and calling him a cuck and a pussy. I don't think Charlie's one of those people. I've met him, I've hung out with him. I don't think Charlie is the type of person in his many, many years of creating content, when he could have easily done edgy shit, he never did. He's been edgy in the sense that he has talked about piss, shit, and cum, but he's not making, I've never seen any fucking videos of him where he's making like racist ass jokes or anything like that. So I think Charlie's in the second category of people who are like, well, I liked your content and I didn't see it as like really all that bad. Okay. Let's be real. The internet was a fucking way worse place back then than it is now.
And that's how I was for like the first 8 or 9 years of this channel, doing nothing but gameplay and commentary videos, spouting the word nipple and titty and cum as much as I possibly could within the first 2 minutes and throughout the rest of the video. But eventually, you do take a risk and you try other things, and I always think that's the most fulfilling thing a creator can do, which is branch out from their niche. At least to try it, dip your toes in the deep end of that pool and give it a whirl.
I was being very bigoted in a lot of my videos, and I justified it because, I didn't think it was too serious. And I thought they're going to see that I had good intentions, you know, but that's so silly, you know. Casual racism is still racism. Casual bigotry is still bigotry. And, you know, I said a lot of things that I look back at and I cringe now, and I'm like, that is an awful thing to say.
This I completely understand. That is totally normal to look back on that and cringe, right? In your 30s and really any age over 16, you're not exactly going to be getting a hearty ho 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 belly laugh just hearing a bunch of slurs being spammed. Real life isn't Call of Duty lobbies.
For the record, at no age do you get that hearty belly laugh if you're black or gay. Just want to point that out. A lot of people don't fully comprehend that part. Like, you're not saying slurs for a multitude of different reasons, right? Like, one of them is that you don't want to hurt people's feelings. You don't want to ignite systematic oppression, systemic forms of oppression in a fucking normal conversation, in a person-to-person interaction. But even if it's not about that, it could be about, for example, I don't know, not looking like a fucking racist douchebag. That's a good reason to not say things like that. But, you know, I am understanding. I'm white. Part of the reason why I can be understanding. But I wouldn't say it's just someone doing it for the lulz and cringing because it's no longer giving us the lulz like it used to when you were 17 years old and edgy.
I don't think many people in the real world are going to be like laughing and fist pumping hearing you just shout slurs as comedy.
Normally I get mad whenever chatters say, oh, you should hear from a black person on this subject. What the fuck is your white ass saying? Like, normally I get mad at that because I'm like, dude, I'm a white guy, but like, this is what I do. I do political commentary. Like, go watch a black content creator then. I can't be black. But this is one of the moments where it's like, no, it's actually pretty fair to say that. It does seem like this is getting lost in the discourse, lost in the sauce.
So that makes sense to look back on that and cringe. However, none of your videos came from a place of hate. At least I don't think so. I don't think you were ever a racist or a bigot or anything like that. You used those words for shock humor. That was the whole goal, the edgy shock humor of using those words. And you made it pretty clear that that was kind of your drive. And he does mention it in this video with the it's either all okay or none of it's okay mentality. But I really think most people were able to recognize that the things he was saying weren't coming from a place of legitimate hate. Now, you can of course still say that it's unacceptable that he was using slurs for shock humor and punchlines in his videos for the jokes. That's a totally fair perspective to have. But it's still, I think, a little ridiculous to make it seem like it was this big of a deal that it warranted a whole apology video in which he makes it seem like he'll never truly find forgiveness and he'll never forgive himself.
Okay, I disagree, bro. What the fuck? That's crazy. Charlie, you don't even agree with this shit. Why are you saying this? Like, this is what I don't understand. Like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, did you do that video? Did you do videos like that? No. That's Florida talking. I don't agree with Charlie on this. And I don't even think he agrees with him. Because if Charlie thought that, you know, it was just shock humor or just edgy, he would have dabbled in similar kinds of commentary. He was around in 2016. He was around in 2015. Why didn't you do it then? You'd be hard-pressed to find one person whose feelings were genuinely hurt by the way he was using it. That's why it seems so overboard for a lot of people. You were just basically saying you do not have a single black or brown or gay person in your life. That's all you're saying. Are you crazy? Come on, man. It's not racist if they shock you when they call you a slur, lol. Yeah, like what? I don't think people understand that. They like, that's so weird. It's like yet another classic fucking, well, you know, what about the academic sense of saying the word argument? It almost feels like that. It's like, well, you know, you can use slurs in an edgy and shock humor kind of way. It's just a little cringy. Like, no, you basically present yourself as like a hateful person when you do that. To like most people who that kind of language is being directed towards, most people who are like victimized by that word, they don't think you're just like doing edgy shock humor. They think you're a fucking racist. The intent is baked into the word. If you're fucking dropping it like that.
For saying the slurs in the videos and making the content he did. Because again, like he's talking about it like he's a fucking reformed racist. Like he was actually a racist and now he's not. When I don't think that was the case. He was an edgelord. And that's it. I feel like this whole video could have just been summed up very easily like, hey guys, it was fucking 2016. I was edgy, and now I think it's cringy, so I don't want to do that anymore, and we're closing the book. That, you know,
yeah, if he said that, that would have been a shit fucking apology. Obviously, you would have liked it, but you're not the fucking target of the apology. You're friends with him. You already know who he is. You already have seen his his change over the years. That apology is not for you, man. That apology is for, I don't know, black people and brown people and gay people and trans people. Like, people that were in the fucking periphery. Maybe they were fans of iDubbbz. Maybe they liked that he was shitting on Rice Gum, but we're like, what the fuck is this racial bullshit? Also, 2016 is not like some magical time when like saying the N-word was like totally valid. It was fucking gross back then. I remember. I was there. You know? It's pretty fucking gross. If you make the kind of apology Charlie is talking about after meeting a fan who thought you'd hate trans people because of your content, all you'd prove is a lack of soul. Exactly.
We're shutting that chapter down, putting the kibosh on it. Now we're doing some other stuff. And that would have been a totally fine explanation. A lot of people would have still would have been disappointed, of course, in his audience that liked that content. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't feel like a prisoner to your audience. You should make what makes you happiest to create. Like, I don't think you should have felt obligated to make this video.
Charlie's message feels like we don't hate minorities or want a white supremacist nation, just want to capture your attention for the top of the hour ad break. That's funny you say that because I already ran the top of the hour ad break, you fool. So that was bad. Boo.
Like, I don't think this situation was so damaging that it warranted this kind of like fucking presidential press.
It absolutely did. I'm going to run it right now. I'm going to keep running the video. I'm going to go take Kai out to pee.
Conference here over it and apologizing for the content you made back then. You know, I don't think like you ruined lives because you made content, cop. I don't think you made an entire generation of racists and bigots because you use slurs for shock humor. I think that's a very bastardized perspective of how people digest content online. Now, I have no doubt that his audience did cultivate some weirdo losers that probably were real racists somewhere in there that didn't really care about his message and just liked that he was saying the N-word. I have no doubt that existed in his community. But I don't think that was his goal, and there's always going to be weirdo losers. Of course, you can do your best to mitigate those people from feeling welcome in your community, but that all starts with just changing the content over time. Again, that's not a weak thing to do. That is not a weak or passive approach. The vilifying of your own audience and your previous content, I don't think is the right way of even looking at the content you used to make or the audience that you had. Of course, there were bad actors in there, but not everyone was. And to make them feel like they were if they liked your content is a little weird. And I don't think that's the goal of this video by any means.
Quick summary of Charlie's take. It's okay to use slurs and you should never apologize for it or encourage others to use them. No, he's not saying that. I mean, it is coming across like that. I don't think he believes that. Charlie interpreted Ian's vid so off and all good Kai will slay anyways. Ian's own audience threatens him in his wife's life because she's a sex worker and he loves her. These are sick people. Yeah. He very clearly was pro saying the N-word and was giving people the arguments to say the N-word. And that was bad. You quoted a comment I saw on a Clips channel yesterday. His content for years swayed a generation. I went to pretty much all white school and was the only black kid. The amount of slurs that got called directly because of iDubbbz's comedy and pathetic reasons he slurs. It's like the little white kids in my school ate his ass up. And all I say is someone who also watches content cops. Yeah. I also don't understand why you're criticizing another person's apology. Like, what's it to you, man? What the fuck? That's weird. I thought he was going to like defend Ian against people who were like fucking hurling insults at him and saying like psychotic shit. I did not expect this. You shouldn't feel guilty for consuming his content. It's not like your output was identical to Ian's back then. You know what I mean? I don't know why like he's taking it so personally. Like this part is like very interesting to me where he's making it seem like he's like, oh, Ian made me feel bad for liking his old content. You shouldn't. I watched his old content recently with my current brain, and there were parts that were like insanely fucking cringe. You know, the N-word, F-word, all the fucking slurs, but they literally feel out of place, even with the rest of it, because he's shitting on a guy who says the N-word all the time, like Keemstar, for example. You know what I mean? So like it unironically felt out of place at that time even.
For shock humor. I think that's a very bastardized perspective of how people digest content online. Now, I have no doubt that his audience did cultivate some weirdo losers that probably were real racists somewhere in there that didn't really care about his message.
Come on, yes, dude, yes.
And just liked that he was saying the N-word. I have no doubt that existed in his community. But I don't think that was his goal, and there's always going to be weirdo losers. Of course, you can do your best to mitigate those people from feeling welcome.
Okay. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. I don't know if Charlie doesn't recognize that, like, Like racist Nazi fucking losers hate Keemstar too. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. When you're shitting on a guy like Rice Gum, like there's gonna be plenty of fucking racist Nazi losers who also are like, yeah, fuck that guy. I do not understand why he's saying this kind of stuff, especially because like Ian was 100% correct and is now getting like an insane amount of criticism for it from all of the worst parts of the internet, whether it be the annoying fucking radlib SJWs who are like, well, it doesn't matter to me, fuck you, you're like literally a Nazi, you kill yourself, whatever, or the actual fucking alt-right dickheads who cannot let go of the halcyon days of you know, the golden days of content for them when they were in the internet forums and they were young and actually their dreams had not fucking crumbled in front of their eyes yet. So they're like, let's get back to that. It made me feel so fucking good when I could just say the N-word and F-word freely and watch the iDubbbz videos, and it made me feel great. And like, how dare he speak out against that? Like, you know, those guys are now fucking 35 years old, okay? And not a lot has changed in their lives from back then. And that's not a very good thing. He needs your understanding and help. That's how I see it. I'm a content creator who believes that people can grow and people can change. And I will always be welcoming of people who have demonstrated rehabilitation, demonstrated that they have changed their minds, demonstrated growth.
But that all starts with just changing the content over time. Again, that's not a weak thing to do. That is not a weak or passive approach. The vilifying of your own audience and your previous content, I don't think is the right way of even looking at the content you used to make or the audience that you had. Of course there were bad actors in there, but not everyone was. And to make them feel like they were if they liked your content is a little weird. And I don't think that's the goal of this video by any means, but it does come across that way. Like,
yeah, this part I don't like at all. Like, what do you mean? It's like vilifying you? Like, you take this personally? Like, what the fuck's going on?
You weren't a bad person if you were laughing at his content cops or anything like that. And I don't think he was a bad person for making those content cops in the first place.
I shouldn't be able to just make an apology video and walk away from it. This is something that I should live the rest of my life with, and I expect to. I've profited off of this bigoted content for years, and I've made a successful career out of it, and that's not right. I think that this is only a step in the right direction, and I know that a lot more needs to be done to even approach a life that I would think would be like acceptable.
You don't deserve to be fucking publicly flogged with tomatoes thrown at you for the rest of your life and skinned alive because you made edgy videos in 2016, man. It's just not that big of a deal.
It's not what's going on. He didn't say that. Why are you making it out to be like that? What the fuck? Dude, this is so bad. No matter how much Normie Jesus has cultivated a fucking fan base of people on both sides of the political spectrum, I feel like a lot of people are going to be rubbed the wrong way from this. There's no way. This almost feels like a Sunny V2 Ninja video at this point, where he's just like, this apology is not warranted. You're flogging yourself. You don't deserve this. Like, that's not what he's saying. He's taking ownership over some of the fucking dog shit stuff that he did, which is what men do, okay? You're an adult. You're a man. You took accountability for it. You're matured now, okay? And I think it was the right fucking thing to do. Why is he doing the fallen fan dynamic here for some reason? He stepped up. Like, he did the right fucking thing. Nobody thinks he killed people, okay? If anything, most people who are still shitting on Ian are his old fans. iDubbbz is 32 years old and finally realized screaming the N-word is bad and accept folks to care/respect them for coming to this conclusion. Why are you so pressed that he did it, though? Why? It's such a weird thing to say because, like, so what's up? Are you woke scolding him then for apologizing? What should he have done? Not apologize then? Why are you mad that he apologized? Explain that to me. He literally made another take that was the opposite? Bro, this is painful. Oh my God. Oh, it turns out that you just don't like that he apologized for saying the fucking N-word. He didn't even watch it 4 minutes ago. He just went straight. Dude, he screenshotted it and went straight to Twitter to farm those juicy fucking clicks. I love that. I love how mentally ill everyone is online to like desperately fucking grab as much attention as they possibly can. Considering that it'll end up donating to the ADL, I would consider this a random video. You just made that up. He's not donating to the fucking ADL. His wife is Palestinian. I'm pretty sure they're aware that the ADL as an institution is not exactly too fond of Palestinians in general. But I doubt that this person actually cares about that distinction. He just probably sees ADL Jews. I don't like it. Charlie's comment section is disagreeing with him crazy. You made a 21-minute video about a guy apologizing for saying the N-word. How did you think that was going to go down in the fucking internet? Because Charlie is not a fucking right-winger. Okay, he is the barometer of the center. No, he is.
It feels horrible hearing this from him, knowing that it weighs so heavily on his mind that he made these videos, so he feels like he's a real piece of shit for doing it. You just made edgy YouTube videos. You didn't ruin anybody's life. You didn't create.
Ian didn't invent racism, obviously, but he certainly fucking played a not insignificant role. You know, giving people the weapons to fucking be racist as they want to for an entire generation. He was incredibly notable. Charlie's doing the "you aren't responsible for your fan base" shit at a time when, like, you are, though. And Ian is saying he is, though.
The content itself isn't bigoted content either. You used edgy shock humor. And I don't think that makes you a bigot that you're going to have to atone for.
No, it absolutely does. It's not 2016 anymore. Come on. And you knew that it did back then too, which is why you didn't do it. You said titties, cum, dicks. You said all the other fucking things. Why didn't you say the N-word then? If it didn't make you racist. I wonder why you didn't say it. Why didn't you say it? You should have said it back then too if it's like fine. You know what I mean? It's not. The major reason why iDubbbz said all the fucking edgy shit was not because he was like ideologically a Nazi or whatever. Because if he was, then he wouldn't be like, you know, targeting all these fucking people that he targeted in the way that he was. The reason why he did it is because he was, unfortunately, desperate for fucking laughs. He also, obviously, much like many of the chatters even back then, was completely fucking blind to the white supremacist attitudes that he was reinforcing in his content. But because he's a fucking man, and because he is an adult, he took ownership over his actions and openly said that it was fucking pathetic.
For those sins for the rest of your life over.
I am running ads on this video, and any revenue generated from this video, I'm going to match and donate to an organization that, you know, would have been particularly affected by the type of rhetoric that I've been spewing on this channel. And again, this isn't the end of what I'm doing. This is just the start.
You'll get no complaints from me here. I'm always on the side of helping people, so anything charitable, I'm always for. Though I don't think it was necessary or anything, I still think that's a nice gesture regardless. But he uses the word rhetoric here. And that again makes it sound like these videos were coming from like a legitimate racist, which I don't think they were. I really don't.
Bro, intent versus like outcome, dude. Oh my God. Oh my God. You don't need to say any of this, bro. What are you saying? The question I have for Charlie is literally this. If it wasn't that big of a deal, why the fuck didn't you say the N-word and F-word all the fucking time and make arguments as to why you should be able to say it back then? Why? Perhaps you understood that you would look a certain type of way. And like, there is a part of this that he just completely fucking wiped out of the video in his reaction for some reason, which is like one of the personal consequences that Ian experienced. A trans fan of his coming up to him and thinking that he might be transphobic. That was like a pivotal moment in the video, in my opinion. It kind of like puts the narrative together in a perfect way. He also mentioned like, I'm not your cup of tea, like what he was trying to say. And when he was crying and you know, delivering a statement at the end of his boxing match at Creator Clash 2, like that was the pivotal moment. That was the moment that he was just like, this is why I said this.
At least I don't want to believe that iDubbbz used to be a racist and he was using that to try and...
And just like every other 15-year-old, he went through this insanely woke process called growing as a person. It's a chemical reaction that occurs when you touch grass. Yeah. He was 27 though. So what? So what? Okay, he was 27. Are you not allowed to fucking make mistakes? Are you not allowed to grow? No, I don't get it. Like, so what's the point? Why did you bring that up? So like he should keep being racist. That's what you're saying. Like that's because that's his argument. That's his side. His perspective is like, no, you should literally keep being racist. I don't give a fuck. It doesn't even make sense from their own perspective.
You know, propel his beliefs forward. He really it seems like he was really just using these words as shock humor, which is cringy, sure, very cringy, and that is absolutely fine to point out. but it doesn't strike me as something that was genuinely ruining people's lives hearing that kind of shit. It's just kind of like an eye-rolling thing to look back on now, like, ugh, that's fucking lame.
Yeah, I think that's the main point of contention here, is that like Charlie made a fucking 21-minute video being hypercritical of Ian's apology because he thinks it's not that big of a deal. Like what he did was not that big of a deal. It was. It's not just cringy. It was a fucking big deal. Routinely making arguments why you should be able to say the N-word and F-word is a big deal, okay? Especially if you personally are against that sort of thing.
And that's really it. I just don't think it goes too much deeper than that. Like I said, I have no doubt there really were some dangerous weirdos that did hold dangerous beliefs in his community, but I don't think he made them. I think they were there when they found his content to begin with, and they stuck around because they just liked hearing the edgy words spoken out loud. That's it.
Yeah, he's trying to say Ian was so much more than just saying the N-word and F-word, which is true, but it's a pretty important component of his content. I don't disagree with that. His content and what he stood for was more than that. He still recognizes that what he did back then was really fucked up.
I don't think he made them. He wasn't the Frankenstein to their monster. Now, I don't want to just keep dissecting every single piece of the video here. I want to kind of branch this out into a broader talking point about when a creator starts to resent the audience and community they've fostered. Because that's fundamentally what's happened here. iDubbbz has grown up now. He doesn't like what he made when he was younger, and he doesn't like the audience that he made along the way, along the journey. He mentions a couple of times in the videos, like some of these eureka moments where he's like, man, this is really fucking frustrating, the people that are in my audience. Well, he doesn't blatantly say that, but he tells a couple anecdotes about, you know, going to conventions and meeting fans and it being kind of like this mirror held up to him that he didn't like the reflection of. And that's a very interesting and unfortunately pretty common thing to have happen online, where someone spends a long time building their brand and building their audience. And as they grow, they start to really resent the audience that they have. And usually this comes in one of two forms, where you have someone like Darkside Phil. I've used him as an example before, but he has an audience that he doesn't seem to really like, but he needs them because they pay his bills. So he has to constantly keep doing the same things in order to keep the lights on. And I imagine he feels trapped by his viewers because he has to keep doing this song and dance in order to get the money from them, but doesn't like what he's doing. And it also happens to other creators as well, who spend a long time building their identity online, but they don't like what they're doing, and they don't like the people that are watching them. So then they try and make some kind of change and then get eaten alive by their community, which only further reinforces their disdain for them, which leads to a really toxic community where everyone's at each other's throats. There's countless examples of that. Point is, that experience online is all too common. And when it does happen, a creator's left with a choice. They either just suck it up and keep making the shit that they clap for, even though it doesn't make them happy and they don't like the audience that's clapping for them, or they try and change the content and grow a different kind of audience, which is always...
Isn't it weird that your fans IRL are chill, but iDubbbz or Charlie fans are toxic? I don't think Charlie fans are like all that toxic either. He's just a very normie, so he does have toxic people. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for that. I don't know what his experiences have been with his fans. But mine have been incredibly fucking pleasant. Hasan has toxic fans as well. It happens everywhere. Yeah, I've never fucking met a toxic fan. My experiences with my fans have been the most pleasant. And you're correct, mostly because the weird ones don't go offline. They don't go IRL.
Always the scarier option. That's always the more uncertain one, because maybe no one likes it, and now you've lost that audience you built up, and now your career is in jeopardy. You might not be able to keep the lights on by doing this career anymore, because now you've alienated them, gone in a different direction, and it hasn't worked out. So the majority of creators in this position just kind of suck it up, rub some dirt in it, and just keep doing the same shit over and over, even if it makes them miserable. And that's why you'll see a lot of creators burn out.
Wait, don't you feel like that's precisely the reason why what Ian did is like brave? Like, he's literally saying that like iDubbbz did this instead of constantly doing something that he doesn't personally agree with. And he made that personal growth. He made that personal change in his real life. And he inevitably could not stand that he hadn't openly addressed that change that happened in his life, and the kinds of fans that he still had that reflected the old opinions that he had.
out. So I'll always respect the creators that choose the harder path here of pivoting and changing their content, doing what makes them happier, even if it means taking that huge risk of losing the audience you've built up over time. Even though I disagree with iDubbbz's perspective on his older content being damaging or dangerous or indoctrinating, I still do respect that he didn't like what he was doing, so now he's doing something that he likes more. Even though it is coming at the risk of losing his audience, he'll find happiness in the content that he makes going forward, and maybe he's happier with the new audience that he potentially cultivates through all of it. So, but yeah, anyway, just kind of wanted to talk about this whole situation. That's about it. So yeah.
I got the opinion that Charlie thought Ian was a little too hard on himself. Yeah, that would be fine if it was just like Ian was a little too hard on himself. He also moved beyond that by making it seem like some of the things that he said was just like for shock value and edgy, and he wasn't like actually racist. Saying the N-word is not just edgy, okay? It's wrong. Justifying saying it and constantly saying it, cutting videos on why you should be able to say it is insane. And he's grown out of that, and I applaud him for it. It's wild to make a 21-minute video on a 17-minute apology on why saying the N-word is wrong was actually a bad apology. I don't know what to say about that other than that.